As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
Hey everyone, this is Kevin Wilson. I'm in hosting Radio Free New York today. Andrew is out for the day. And I understand I also have Bob Savage here. Bob,
Let me check. Let me see. Yeah, it's me.
Okay, great. All right, yeah, I'm broadcasting remote today, and for those of you watching on the live streams on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, you can see I'm in my my little closet that I've made for myself to broadcast, and Bob is of course in studio. So
well, yeah, I mean, I guess whether you're remote or not is a matter of perspective because you can't see me. See, here I am. I'm at the mothership, but I have a barcode face. What can I say? But that's kind of the way that it goes. And I'm very pleased that you are the very person on this radio station, Kevin, to have heard me with my actual voice. First time since January.
with your actual voice, you've recovered your actual voice?
My voice, this is my actual voice speaking right now, and you can hear that it doesn't sound like Brenda Vaccaro after she'd eaten sandpaper.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I know it's been a bit rough the last few weeks for you, but I'm glad that you made a full recovery.
Thanks. Thanks for the glad tidings. And we would also like to certify that this radio program is 100% COVID-19 free. So it's perfectly safe to listen to.
Good. Yep. Don't worry, you can't catch it from listening to Radio Free New York. But we are going to talk about that a little bit today because, man, it's dominating the headlines so much. And I think there's more stuff to follow up on from the conversations that Andrew and I had on Tuesday as it related to Governor Cuomo's actions, because now there's stuff coming out of the federal government, and there's a presidential speech last night from Donald Trump, and I want to talk a bit about that. Bob, did you have a chance to catch that?
I did not. Unfortunately, I was out of town yesterday and we were traveling, so I didn't get to watch that. But I've heard excerpts from it, and I thought it was pretty measured.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so one of the big takeaways from that is that there's going to be a travel ban between us and Europe.
Yeah, 100% for 30 days.
Which is interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. Only like I kind of think that like it may be a little too late for that type of thing. It's kind of already here, and that's a lot of the criticism I'm hearing. And you know, with a lot of this stuff, I'm trying to like pull out the criticism from like partisan noise and legitimate criticism of, you know, stuff that could be handled better by the president.
Well, of course, the problem is because of the amorphous nature of these infections. There's never a bright line where you say, okay, this is the point at which we lay down the law and we say no more travel from this section of the world or from this country or from this hotspot. It's a very rapidly developing thing. And it's just really it's very easy to quarterback, I think.
Yeah, right. And lots of Monday morning quarterbacking going on. And you know, there is a case now in Rochester where I live. It's on the west side of the city, but there's a guy who came back from Italy and he is confirmed to have the COVID-19 virus. So it's here. Hopefully, it hasn't spread anywhere, and that's the big issue. Is it's already around now and could be out in the community being spread and there are lots of reasons why we don't quite know how many cases are around yet, a lot of which have to do with the federal government, which is really frustrating. The CDC had limited previously the number of tests that were available and the conditions under which people could be tested. But like as soon as the CDC gave private organizations the okay to develop their own tests, there's one done within 9 days.
I know, it's amazing. The response to this has been incredible.
Yeah, so like the Cleveland Clinic just came out with one, and it can give results in 8 hours instead of 2 or 3 days like other tests. And, you know, again, once you unleash the power of the private market, you end up with some really, really great outcomes.
There you go. So what have we learned from that? Oh, and by the way, also, I don't want to jump ahead of you too much here, Kevin, but there's also really exciting and good news on the vaccine front.
Oh, I haven't seen much about that yet. What's going on?
Well, there's two versions. There is one that looks like it's going to be tested here as early as late April, maybe May. There's another interferon type that has been it was in development in mice for some other type of infection. That looks like that's going to be ready to go in August. So that sounds like that's, fairly long time period down the road. But the truth of the matter is, when it comes to these vaccines, from what we're hearing, development of these things and making them effective can easily take 18 to 24 months.
Yeah. I mean, the cool thing is that, like, the time frame for doing that has gotten much faster. And again, if we can get the government out of the way to allow some of these tests to happen faster, it may shorten the timeline even further.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I saw in the news today, I haven't had a chance to confirm much of this, but there's a biotech company claiming they had developed a cancer drug quite a while ago that they have seen good results with killing the COVID-19 virus in laboratory conditions.
Yeah, I think
they
that's
want to be able to test that.
I think that's that interferon thing I was referring to. I think that's what that one. Yeah, I think that's that one.
I did see that one, but they're saying, like, it had already been tested on people before. They know safe doses for men, women, and children for that, and it could be effective for the COVID-19 virus. But they need to get the FDA to let them be able to run tests and see how effective it is. And sometimes that can take months to years for that type of stuff to develop.
Yeah, and once again, here you have the magic of the open market, the free market, and the profit motive that has propelled so much innovation and has raised the standard of living throughout the world, not just for Americans, but for emerging economies such as, look at where China has come and where India has come. India, of course, you'll recall back in the 1970s, was a protectorate of the Soviet Union. And was all top down and was completely, Soviet-style infrastructure in terms of government and the economy. Now that it's embraced free market capitalism, look at what's happening with India now. How many Indian products do we use every day?
Yeah, no, a ton. And again, it's turned into a manufacturing powerhouse. The more they turn away from socialism and more towards free market capitalism. Hopefully that trend continues throughout the year because, we can see what happens in cases where, there's a central planning authority that's responsible for the distribution of all goods and services. You don't even need to look at the Soviet Union anymore. We're seeing how nationalized healthcare systems are struggling to deliver and respond to these crises. They either respond in an incredibly draconian way, which is what China's doing, or in an inept way, which is what Italy's doing right now, where I think in the last 24 hours, 200 people had died from COVID-19. But they have a nationalized healthcare system, and you have the progressives telling you that, the only way for us to be able to solve this crisis is to move towards Medicare for all. Well, they basically have that there already, and look how people are responding to it.
Yeah, not a good thing, but, it doesn't matter what Donald Trump does. The progressive left is going to criticize it.
They sure will, and we'll be back in just a few minutes to talk a little bit more about this and what some of these solutions are.
It's Radio Free New York. Kevin Wilson in for Andrew today. Yours truly, Bob Savage, complete with voice. Can you believe it? We'll be back in just a moment.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovation should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
College Assistance Plus has worked with thousands of families, saving them millions of dollars. It can be stressful choosing the right college, but we're here to help. CA Plus will guide you from college visits to college graduation and through every step in between. Each student and family situation is different, and we work to accommodate those specific needs. Call today for a free family meeting, 585-582-1846, or visit collegeassistanceplus.com for more information. College is expensive. College Assistance Plus can help.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice. Save a life. Train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe. Ride free. Ride often. Abate. If you ride with us. Google Abate Monroe County.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau.
Last spot.
Your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving.
Great, I saw you got my text.
At SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm Kevin Wilson again in for Andrew Hollister today. And of course, we have Bob Savage at the WYSL studio as well.
Hello, all.
So we're talking about the COVID-19 stuff. We're talking about the Trump travel ban, which is again banned all travel from Europe. And I do want to take a minute to kind of address like how seriously we should take the situation, because it's kind of weird. It's all over the place with people saying, "Oh, this ain't a big deal," but this is a big deal. And it's weirdly partisan. I found that Democrats seem to be panicking more, and conservatives and Republicans seem to be panicking a bit less. And to be clear, I don't think that we should be panicking, but we should take it seriously. And I think there's a middle ground to be had where if there's a serious disease outbreak, I do not want or expect the government to take care of me. I don't think that the government is going to handle things well. I don't think they'll take care of me and my family. So what I do, and I think every responsible American should do, is to prepare themselves if they need to be quarantined. Make sure you have food, toilet paper, I guess, too, and other supplies, like if you are kind of stuck in place for a little while, because things do happen. But on the dangerousness thing, one of the things I see is it compared to flu, and something to keep in mind about the flu and about the COVID-19 virus is that the COVID-19 virus may, in fact, be more contagious than the flu, that it spreads a bit quicker, and it's still so new that we don't quite know. But the flu has a mortality rate of something like 0.1%. So far, it seems like this virus may have a mortality rate of anywhere between 0.7% and 3.4%. But to be clear, that is 7 times to 34 times more deadly than the flu. And so if between 12,000 and 60,000 people die from the flu each year, that can be a very serious and high number of people who end up dying from this. So it's something you should take seriously. And in fact, if you kind of expand those numbers, say, like, what if maybe not worst case scenario, but a terrible case scenario is like 1 in 4 Americans catch this. If 2% of people die from that, that's 75 million people who would be catching this disease, and that means that 1,500,000 people would die. That's a pretty serious number. Now it might not get to that point, but the point is that if we want to be safe, we should do things like wash our hands and don't show up to work if you're sick, and,
Right.
and do that type of stuff.
Yeah, I think that what we have to, first of all, you have to keep all this stuff in perspective. Yes, there is a fatality rate associated with COVID-19, and the median age for someone who is mortally infected with COVID-19 is 80. That means there are more people older than 80 than younger than 80 that that die from this. And in most cases, these are people with suppressed immune deficient situations and other health problems as well. Not trying to denigrate this. I'm not trying to dismiss it or ignore the problem, because there is definitely a potential problem. But there's an upside to the whole thing too. So what you have to do is, first of all, look at the media reports with an informed eye. Understand what is going on here and what's not. A lot of the media coverage is driven by what they want is your eyeballs. They want you watching these video streams. They want you to watch these cable systems. So they want you fixating on this whole thing, which may not be the healthiest way to approach this situation.
If you're scared, you'll keep watching, right?
Right. That's what it's about. And that's what they're about is delivering an audience on behalf of their advertisers. And right now, this whole narrative is engaging people, obviously. But I mean, you touched on it, Kevin. What can you do? I mean, practically speaking, let's take a breath here. What can we as Americans and citizens do? And you just did a short list, a very good, effective list. Wash your hands. Try not to touch your face. Avoid large gatherings of people. Don't go to work sick. Stay away from people who seem to be sick. Let's just all use common sense. You got to wash your hands a lot more than you used to.
Yeah, no, wash your hands for 20 seconds. I got to admit, I'm a bit better about this now, because before I'd kind of do a thing where I'd put soap on my hands and then just quickly rub them under the water and that'd be it. I'm like, oh no, I should really wash my hands for real. I guess I should do it the right way.
Yeah, sing the happy birthday song twice. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear hand washer. No COVID virus for you. Do that twice.
That's a good one. Yeah, no, there's like whole lists of songs. They actually have a song generator where you can write a hand washing chart and have like the chorus of the song underneath it. Like you do Africa by Toto. One I sing is What Do You Do with a Drunken Sailor? That's a fun one. Probably creeps people out in my company bathroom, but whatever. I'm making sure my hands are clean.
There you go. And tunefully too, we say.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure it's very enjoyable too to hear it. But I would love to hear from you guys too. Of course, you can call in 585-346-3000. We are live noon to 1 today, and tell us: do you think that people are overreacting, underreacting? What level should we be at? And I do want to hit some of the comments that we have. Is that there's questions about why aren't we just quarantining people that are flying from Italy? And a few people said, Garrett says, quarantine is an extreme action that infringes on multiple rights of the individual. He thinks just screening people from high-risk areas is okay, but doesn't want to jump right to quarantine. Things like that. So
there's some interesting implications from all of this. I mean, what's happening now, of course, as we know, is the college kids are being told, don't come back after spring break. Stay out until April in most cases. We're now shifting to online learning. Now, just consider the implications of this, Kevin and everybody else. What is one of the major issues financially that is facing American families today? It's the cost of college education. So what you have is now I saw a microphone getting stuck in the face of a U of R student this morning, and he's saying, you know what? I paid for a college education here at the U of R, and now I'm getting online education. Maybe I want my money back.
I think if you're a student, you should definitely be getting a refund for this type of situation. You're expecting to be in person in class. Why shouldn't you get some sort of discount at least for having to do distance learning instead of in-class learning? So
let's just stop and think about the potential implications of this. Suppose on a mass basis, forced by the COVID-19 virus, that college students discover that they can get just as good a college education online and maybe not have to put up with all the political nonsense that takes place on college campuses these days. And they can do it at tremendous savings. Where could this possibly be headed?
Oh no, I think it's not a terrible idea to kind of have that cultural shift to lowering the cost of colleges through online education. And actually, I was hoping that I could do some more on that tomorrow, because I want to do some research about how colleges are shifting and adapting to this situation, and maybe we need to rethink education here, because Again, if it's safer and just as effective to do some online learning, that's great. And why not shift some of those resources that way?
Yeah, and if you don't have to pay all the the tremendous profit-laden room and board charges at schools, and you don't have to underwrite a faculty which is much more interested in politically indoctrinating young people than it is in giving them a practical education that will serve them in life. If it's possible to get an education through some means other than the traditional brick and mortar universities and colleges, where you're better equipped for the labor market, and you get better skills that way, maybe there's a real silver lining here.
Heck yeah. No, I mean, I definitely think that's what it is. And again, we're seeing other stuff canceled too. We're seeing like the NBA has suspended the rest of their season.
Yeah, it's a real problem with professional and collegiate sports.
Yeah. I mean, and like the NCAA has decided to now allow fans at their stadiums for the March Madness tournament. Nate says they postponed the NYWAY, the youth wrestling states in Brockport, which had 1,888 kids registered. Wow. So yeah, that's a big thing. And I mean, if you were listening to the show beforehand, they canceled the St. Patrick's Day parade in Rochester as well. So yeah, lots of events being canceled, which is
not that will stop celebrating in downtown Rochester on Saturday.
No, and that's what I'm wondering too. I was like, okay, so the parade's canceled, but like, what's East Ave gonna look like?
Having been, I'll tell you, Kevin, having been present at that parade numerous occasions in recent years, I can assure you there's a significant number of folks out there who are only dimly aware of the fact that there's a parade going on.
No, that's fair. I've been in the parade the last like 3 or 4 years. I'm on one of those pedal tour bikes.
Oh, cool.
So the nonprofit run ends up getting one of those every time. We just kind of pedal around, and we normally like go around high-fiving people and everything, which we knew was kind of off the table this year. But now a lot of the people, they're just wooing at us and trying to offer us beers and whatnot. Yeah, they're there for the party, and we'll see. I'm curious what those people are going to do, if they're going to still head out to the bars or if people are going to end up staying away. And that's one of the other tough parts, too, is how the economy is going to be affected by this, because people will be scared and they don't want to go out to the bars and the restaurants that they've been supporting over the years. And if you're a small business owner who profits off of events like St. Patrick's Day, you're going to be in a bind. I mean, there's some businesses I know, some Irish pubs and bars who are really dependent upon St. Patrick's Day to carry them through the year.
Yeah, well, like I say, while the parade may be canceled, I think that Amateur Day, as the Irish call it, is going to be in full flower on Saturday. It's going to be a nice day. Relatively nice day. It's going to be sunny but cool. So the folks will be out and about, and I'm sure there will be high spirits and lots of fun. And I think that people who exercise, common sense, not that that's a hallmark of St. Patrick's Day celebrations, I'm talking about COVID-19 wise, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Again, keep in mind, if you're not feeling well, don't go out to the bar and drink. For goodness sake,
good Lord,
think
no.
of other people.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
But on the other hand, just like, again, wash your hands frequently. Just when you get drinks, try not to like sit too close to some people if you think they may be exhibiting symptoms. Just have some common sense about stuff.
And don't kiss her even if she is Irish. Just
a good point.
Yeah, just do the COVID-19 handshake. Where you touch elbows.
There we go. I've seen that the elbow thing. I've seen the Spock thing too. Instead of shaking people's hands, give them the live long and prosper thing.
There's some foot thing that's going on too, which I don't understand.
Now, I'm not sure I'm down with the foot thing. I don't think I like that. It's a bit weird. I'm uncoordinated. I'm off balance. I'm gonna end up falling over because of that.
Especially on St. Patrick's Day.
That's right. Now, we don't want people standing on one foot trying to greet each other on St. Patrick's Day when they're several drinks deep. No, that's a recipe for disaster. No, I'd rather it's more entertaining to have people try to make the Spock symbol when they're in that state and try to greet each other that way.
I don't think I can do that. My fingers don't do that.
I think you can?
No.
Oh, no.
Maybe if I have enough, Bushmills, I might be able to. Oh, by the way, I have a note handed to me by the intrepid Bob D'Angelo in the control room. Livingston County Parade in Avon is canceled as well. I think you can assume that St. Patrick's Day parades and outdoor events are canceled if they involve a gathering of people, because right now we're kind of at a stage in this thing where it's kind of raising a level of alarm, and just common sense and discretion indicate that we ought to be careful. Again, no panicking. Don't go out and buy now. Listen, don't go out and buy a bunch of toilet paper now, just because
we're gonna buy bacon.
Right, bacon is important.
All right. When we come back, we'll talk about the difference between those types of measures and the draconian government measures that can be a lot worse, and what else we should do to be prepared. So we'll be back here on Radio Free New York in just a few minutes.
You're listening to the voice of liberty. WYSL. AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
The latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center. Tonight, mostly cloudy skies. Temps in the 40s to near 50. Some showers late. Friday, a bit of rain in the morning. Then a gusty breeze will develop. We'll start the day in the 50s, with temps will drop to near 40 late in the afternoon. Sunny and dry for the weekend, but chill.
Yeah, I'm in the choir at church, and during the passing the peace, I just gave everyone the peace sign.
Relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovation should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Looking for something wonderful to do this summer? Consider volunteering at Camp Good Days and Special Times. You'll enjoy a fun-filled weekend on beautiful Keuka Lake, working with children and adults facing cancer and other life challenges. You'll be inspired by their courage. You'll form friendships. You'll touch lives. And your life will be forever changed. You don't need any special skills to be a Camp Good Days volunteer. If you're 18 or older and you'd like to make a difference in the lives of others, you qualify. Make this the best summer of your life. Become a Camp Good Days and Special Times volunteer. Can't spare a week this summer? Year-round volunteer opportunities with flexible scheduling are also available. For more information, call 585-624-5555 or see the complete list of volunteer opportunities and sign up online at www.campgooddays.org.
Are you 65 or older, new to Medicare? At Polano & Company, we take the stress out of Medicare. We guide you through the enrollment process and help you navigate the A, B, C's, and D's of Medicare. Our goal is to make it easy and simple, knowing you have a plan that will cover your medical needs. Call 385-6010 or stop by Polano & Company at 15 Schoen Place in Pittsford today. PolanoCO.com.
Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. Thanks again for joining us here today on WYSL. And of course, if you're listening to rebroadcast on WACK and WENY or our podcasts or any of our online channels, we appreciate you listening today. And of course, we have Bob here as well.
Hello.
Yep. And thanks again, everyone, for getting a whole bunch of comments in. Lots of participation in this discussion. Barb Toll has said that what about people being put out of work who still have bills to pay? That's scary, and that's a fair point. And I don't quite know what the solution to that is. I've seen a few pushed around. The progressives want to They want to have paid sick leave for everyone is what they want to do. Basically to have the employers cover any sick days if there's a quarantine event. I've seen other proposals put around with unemployment insurance covering any gap in work. And I don't know what the right solution to that is. I don't know enough about it at this point to kind of give a definitive opinion on that. But you'll definitely see both those proposals going around. I think that's something Andrew and I want to examine a little bit more closely and see what one kind of makes sense.
Well, try this. We know that Andy wants, as part of his budget process, he wants paid sick leave made mandatory. If you're up to 99 employees, I'm not quite sure why the number of employees is a determining factor here, but up to 99 employees, you get 5 paid sick leave days a year. If an employer has more than 99 employees, you get 7. I don't get that. But why don't we try this? How about if you go to work for a nice company, for a good organization that treats its people well and wants to, create a product or a service that is truly a credit to mankind, they're going to take good care of their people and they're not going to dock you for getting sick. So why don't we let the free market take care of this? The better employees will seek out the better employers, and those companies will prevail.
Yeah, no, I mean, and generally, I agree with that. But here's the thing, Bob, is a lot of people are terrified, and when they're terrified, they want someone to take action right now. And even if the policy ultimately is bad for employers, bad for the country, and maybe even bad for the employees themselves too, people want something to be done.
Well, we all want something to be done. And as we all know, when you want something to be done hastily, when you want something to be done now, generally it doesn't produce a good result.
No, it doesn't. And New York is great at doing that. And, and that's what we're seeing with some of these cases too. And again, I worry the fear not only leads to some of these bad policies that are hastily constructed and people haven't fully thought out the consequences of, it's also leading to diminishment of civil liberties as well. And
yeah, I got two words for people who want something to be done right now: Patriot Act.
Nope, and we could see something like that coming out today. I don't know. President Trump has said something today about an executive order, and then we have the issue that we talked about earlier this week with Governor Cuomo issuing an emergency declaration and suspending local laws too. And he's used that, I think, almost immediately after our show was up in New Rochelle, where New York National Guard troops are there in the streets to impose a sort of soft quarantine. Have you heard about?
Yeah, there's a restricted travel zone there in the city of New Rochelle, and I think that the presence of National Guard there is exactly the wrong move, because what that does is that creates this false sense of acute emergency, which is just not the case right now. It's not. Not even in New Rochelle. I understand that we have a cluster of cases of COVID-19 down there, and that, by the way, a lot of that has been traced to one family that did travel in a high-risk area of Europe. I believe it was Italy, and so that spread throughout that area of that community. But I mean, come on, folks, what's the military going to do about this, or the semi-military?
Yeah, right. And again, I think it creates a greater sense of panic in this situation too, and it makes people more likely to make kind of bad decisions about how they should go out and shop, or they should continue to participate in businesses or go to work. Again, the government would rather overreact than underreact. And I think there's like that sense of caution where they don't want to be accused of sitting there and doing nothing if things do get really bad, so they'd rather overreact even if it's at the cost of our civil liberties. I even get concerned with, like, I understand the ban on travel, but I get worried about how easily we just kind of accept, okay, so like we're not allowed to travel internationally to Europe or China anymore, and we just kind of accept that, right? And what's that going to do to the economy? What does that mean for the president's ability to be able to unilaterally decide when Americans can travel abroad? And how do we make sure that there isn't a ratchet effect in this situation, right? And by ratchet effect, I mean when we're okay out of a fearful situation with executives, governors, the president, whoever, taking unilateral action that curtail our movement or curtail our ability to participate in the economy or anything like that, are we able to dial that back after the crisis subsides, or is that become a permanent part of executive authority?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you look at how life has changed in the United States since 9/11. What has happened to the United States since 9/11? I mentioned the Patriot Act, which has given birth to the surveillance state in the United States, which, by the way, is a major problem with living as a free and independent person in China. Is because the surveillance state is so pervasive and is so well developed. And how do you like your experience at the airport these days since 9/11? I may be wrong about this, but my impression is, and I think I'm correct, when I say that there has been no terrorist activity that has been prevented by all of the inconveniences at the airport these days. And most of the interception of terrorists, like the underwear bomber, the shoe bomber, and so forth, has all been performed by private citizens who are just being alert Americans and looking out for their fellow citizens.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it, too. The TSA is all security theater, right? It's there to make people feel like the government is doing something to keep them safer. And I think that we're going to get a lot more of that out of this viral outbreak, too, is that there's going to be a lot of things that are done that are going to become a permanent part of our everyday lives that are mandated by government, and it's there to make us feel safer rather than actually keeping us safer. So,
yeah, I don't know about you, but I would trade reality for theater at any time, even if it's news that I may not particularly want to hear, because at the end of the day, that's where you end up, right? The only thing that you can deal with is reality.
And that's what you do. And again, I think that the best way to approach these situations is usually to let local governments and private organizations decide what's best for them. I think, like, if for instance, in either the NBA or the NCAA tournament, like they decided that they were willing to lose a bunch of money, because let's be clear, they're going to lose a ton of money to keep people safer, because they made that calculation that, okay, this is what needs to be done. Again, when you get something that's permanent and that uses government force and the threat of government violence to restrict your liberty, I think that's what their bigger issue is too. It's I don't want this to become a permanent part of our life. I don't think that is good for the economy. I don't think that's good for constitutional governments to again restrict travel or restrict public gatherings. Like, again, we're talking about restricting assemblies of people too, and we accept that because there is an outbreak. But when it's an edict from government and they're saying you can't have a gathering of more than 250 people, and I think they did that in Seattle and Oregon, okay, so we accept that because it's a viral outbreak, but, like, does that stay a permanent part of our apparatus? And again, does it violate the First Amendment of the Constitution to do that? Well, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's very important that we do recognize that there sometimes are extraordinary circumstances that call for the necessity of quarantines and even restrictions on travel. But if those things are imposed, they have to be very limited in scope and in time. And there has to be a rational basis for it. And I just think that sending the National Guard to New Rochelle is ridiculous, at least at this stage.
No, I tend to agree with you, but we're going to see a bit more of that. But we'll talk about more COVID-19 stuff and maybe some other news, because there are other stuff happening in the U.S. Congress I want to talk about as well. We'll be back in just a few minutes here on Radio Free New York.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Aircraft Environmental Systems proudly supports Radio Free New York. Rochester-based leaders in climate simulation chambers for America's R&D laboratories. We're experts in troubleshooting, calibrations, custom designs, and consulting for more than 40 years. Industry pioneers, we created the first ever fleet of temperature, humidity, and altitude test chambers available to rent coast to coast. Trained and trusted by environmental chamber manufacturers, we are ACES. Find us at acesinc.com.
Human trafficking is when someone is being forced, tricked, or coerced to engage in a sex trade or forced labor. If you're a kid and forced to sell sex, drugs, or work against your will, that's trafficking. You're not a criminal, and there is help available. Call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 888-373-7888 or text Be Free. Sponsored by the Livingston County Safe Harbors Human Trafficking Task Force.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned 3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. Thanks again for joining us today. Again, I'm Kevin Wilson in for Andrew Hollister this Thursday. And I do want to switch topics a little bit because there is other stuff going on, in fact, outside of the COVID-19 thing. And I want to make sure I hit it because it's an important issue. It also concerns your civil liberties. So the USA Freedom Act, which is kind of some of the... It controls some of the FISA court stuff. It concerns a lot of the federal surveillance powers. It's, you know, so a lot of stuff that the USA Freedom Act is kind of what came out of the Edward Snowden revelations, where they started to scale back a little bit of the NSA powers, National Security Agency powers that were given to the NSA following the Patriot Act that were used to collect mass amounts of Americans' phone and internet records. They would just send out a very broad scope of stuff to track your metadata, to track your location data, to track keyword stroke data. So like anything you're typing in online, they were just kind of sending out this broad net to analyze all this data and to flag it for terrorist activity. And actually, fun fact that the first time I've ever been in the WYSL studio was talking about this thing. It was talking about the Edward Snowden revelation, and it was when I was talking about the Restore to Fourth rally. So that was way back in 2013 was the first time I had ever been on WYSL. But this USA Freedom Act, the USA Freedom Reauthorization Act, it's H.R. 6172, is supposed to be a compromise bill coming out of the House that supposedly has more protections for the FISA court. It's supposed to kind of scale back and get the NSA to no longer do things like have broad-based, GPS information stuff. That they have the keyword logging type of stuff. That no longer have the phone metadata type of stuff. So it puts into law some of the reforms that were requested quite a while ago. But
so by protection for the FISA court, you mean protection of abuses from the FISA
right?
FISA
Yeah.
court.
So yeah, to be clear, thank you. So it's supposed to do that. So my issue with this is that it doesn't quite go as far as I would like. It does put into law some of those protections for American civil liberties, your Fourth Amendment protections in there. The NSA had kind of stopped collecting those records a little while ago anyway, in part because they found that it wasn't very effective to do things that way.
I don't think FISA courts should ever be used on Americans.
No, they really shouldn't, and they are constantly. And and I think what's interesting is that President Trump has kind of brought this to the limelight again because his campaign was subject to FISA warrants. Because allegedly,
perfect example,
and that's what it is. And so the compromise that came out of this was in part a way to kind of the Trump campaign people, who were subject to these warrants, it was a way to get them to be satisfied with some of those reforms, because they were rightly criticizing the renewal of FISA court powers for its ability to be able to target campaigns, again, who may be legitimately communicating with foreign powers.
Right. Yeah, exactly, and it can be used for all kinds of political mischief as well. For those listening, Kevin's having a little internet thing; he's bouncing around a little bit. So, just wanted to give you a heads up on that, Kevin, in case you're not hearing it. I don't know what the source of that is, but
yeah, no, I can hear that a little bit. I'm not sure what's going on with that. My studio had crashed and something else had happened. So, yeah. So am I coming in and out, Bob?
You're bouncing around a little bit. I think we're understanding what you're trying to say, but I think that the whole FISA concept has been seriously damaged by the misadventures involving the Trump campaign in 2016.
Yeah, and it's amazing to me that Republicans could still support any of these provisions in the FISA court, even after understanding how this was abused against their presidential candidate too. It's been renewed a couple times now, and it was supposed to sunset Friday. And again, this is a bill that I think it still keeps a lot of those abusive tendencies in place. It doesn't have some of the protections that we could have from activities that are protected by the First Amendment. So it doesn't have legitimate communications between businesses and journalists and things like that. There's still no prohibition on the FISA court being able to use those powers against American citizens in a really broad-mannered way. And the big thing, with all these things is that the NSA was doing this without any warrant. Now there's a legitimate way to go after and kind of collect that information if there's someone who may be involved in a criminal case, and that can be abused too, which is what the case was with President Trump. But they were doing it in such a broad-handed way without any warrants. They were just collecting all the information they could, and that's an incredibly dangerous thing to have. You have all this personal info about American citizens who may at one point have in time communicated with some sort of foreign national. I mean, for goodness sakes, I'm in several text chains sometimes with people who are traveling overseas and communicating internationally, and my data would get swept up in that because I'm communicating with a foreign national. And so again, there's a lot of these abuses that are still in place. Rand Paul, who was hoping for a lot of reforms, is calling the deal weak sauce and diluted. And again, the FISA court is still able to do what they were able to do before. When the FBI agents had approached the FISA court with some pretty dubious evidence to be able to get a warrant against President Trump, the FISA court signed off on that, even though they absolutely shouldn't have, and we kind of know that now. But that power's still in place.
Yeah. Well, look, government does not like to let go of power. Once it aggregates power to itself, it doesn't like to let go of it. And let's just watch and see what Andy Cuomo does now that he has, he's appropriated all these sweeping emergency powers to himself to fight COVID-19. There was no proven necessity for that.
No.
And it's just it's the statist view. It always goes in the direction of more government power and more control and more compromise of civil liberties as opposed to the other way.
Yeah, and that's kind of the big point I wanted to make about this and why I wanted to bring that up, because as we're seeing all these new powers that get generated out of this crisis around the virus popping up, I look back to what the legacy of 9/11 is, and that's what this FISA court, this warrantless surveillance stuff is. It's a legacy of the crisis of 9/11 and wanting to feel secure in that. And we gave all this power to the government in an attempt to feel more secure, and hope that those powers are only temporary in an emergency, and that we would go back to protecting civil liberties and not using these extreme measures in the future. But we didn't. It's been 20 years now, and we still haven't rolled back a lot of the growth of government that happened after 9/11. And so as we see this start to happen now, today, with this new situation, we need to be wary of what is this going to look like if it's still around 10, 20, 30 years from now, and how is that power going to continue to grow?
Rahm Emanuel's famous prescription out of Chicago, never let a good crisis go to waste. That's not an innovation, by the way. This has been a hallmark of government forever. Going back literally hundreds of years, is anytime there's any kind of crisis, some kind of problem that affects the public consciousness, that's always seized down by the ruling class to try to create an aggregation of power and to wield that power, because that's just kind of like what government does.
Yeah. No, absolutely, and that's what we're seeing here today. Never let a good crisis go to waste. This is an opportunity for the government to wield power that they wanted anyway. They wanted the ability to be able to do these things. They wanted to be able to control these things because, again, they want to show that they're doing something in the face of the crisis, show that they're strong politicians, show that they're good leaders, but their manner of doing that puts our liberty in jeopardy and makes our country a worse off and less prosperous place.
No question about it. I was just looking there's a great quote from H.L. Mencken. I was just trying to look at it.
Actually, I was thinking the same one. I was trying to Google that while I was talking.
I'm doing the same thing. So if I sound like I'm distracted, it's because I am.
Yeah, but no, I mean there's some excellent wise quotes about that. I maybe I'll have to post them on the Facebook page afterwards. We'll have you send it to me, but yeah, again, the point is that we have this new USA Freedom Act authorization. It's a bipartisan thing that ended up getting through. You have of course members of Congress like Justin Amash who oppose it, but the congressman in New York 25, Joe Morelli, voted for it, which is disappointing. And I've seen a few of the other upstate New York members of Congress vote for it too. But all right, we're out of time. So thanks again for joining us here on Radio Free New York. We appreciate you being a part of the discussion today, and we'll be back tomorrow with more Radio Free New York. I will talk to you then.